Throughout bar 6, the 16th notes of the right hand interact with the 8th notes of the left hand in second species counterpoint. Here, generally the interaction of parts follows Fuchs's rules, with the first note of the two being a harmony note, and the second being either a non-harmony note approached and left by step, or a second harmony note approached by leap from the first. Here, the harmony can either be heard as a supertonic E half diminished 7th chord or a subdominant G minor chord. If it is the former, this E and D are both harmony notes, and if it is the latter, the E is an accented passing note which moves from another passing note F onto a harmony note D. Often when analysing two-part counterpoint, the interaction of certain notes may suggest more than one harmony. Typically, however, as here, the function of all harmonic options is the same. In this instance, both supertonic and subdominant chords have a predominant function and move to dominant 7th harmony at the end of this bar. Here, the second inversion tonic chord appears to be misplaced and perhaps even contradicts rules governing the use of second inversion chords. When we look at the shape of its melodic contour and the lines which surround it, however, we can hear it as a neighbour chord whose function can be seen more clearly when all notes are aligned. Here on the first quarter note beat of bar 7 begins the theme in D minor. Throughout this entry, the underlying harmony is the same as the initial G minor theme beginning in bar 1, but is transposed to D minor. The right hand's rhythms also match the rhythms used against the initial G minor theme. The only exception is here, where a tied F quarter note, the resolution of the 7th of the A dominant 7th chord, connects quarter note beat 1 with the 16th notes of beat 2. The initial tied F quarter note of the right hand interacts with the themes beginning in third species counterpoint. The first and second notes of the left hand are consonant harmony notes, while the third and fourth are dissonant passing notes, which move between the A and D harmony notes of tonic harmony. On the second quarter note beat, the parts interact in first species. Although the vertical intervals between the parts are consonant, moving in thirds and sixths, harmonically this E, G, and B flat can be heard as passing notes. The B flat is a passing note which has been displaced by an octave. Notice that the leap between the B flat and C sharp outlines a diminished 7th interval, the same interval Bach used here in the previous bar. Because of the leap, the tetrachord typically included in the theme's accompaniment is not complete. Here the expected tonic note at the top of the tetrachord is omitted, so that only a major third is outlined. On the first quarter note beat of bar 9, the D minor theme ends, and for the next 3 bars, Bach uses free counterpoint to move to the next thematic entry in bar 13. As you can see, Bach's counterpoint in these bars uses melodic and rhythmic ideas taken or modified either from the initial theme and accompaniment or from ideas in previous bars. These rhythms, for example, are used here. These motifs are inversions of these. These are inversions of the leaping motif. These are modifications of the 16th note and 8th note groups. And these are used in bar 7. As mentioned earlier, especially during an invention's middle section, all ideas are typically drawn from previously used ideas in the theme. This ensures continuity in the work and also supplies a pool of melodic and rhythmic fragments which can be used to construct sections of free counterpoint. Looking now at the interaction of parts through these bars, the reiteration of these rhythms in the right hand of bar 9 gives Bach the opportunity to use suspensions on the first half of quarter note beats 2 and 4. The interaction of parts creates 9/8 suspensions on these beats, although the octave resolutions of both are delayed to the final 16th note of the beat. In terms of species counterpoint, beats 1 and 3 use second species, while beats 2 and 4 use fourth species. Bars 10 and 11 use a mixture of first, second and third species counterpoint. Here, the interaction of parts can either be heard as a continuation of A dominant 7th harmony from the first beat, with the D and F notes decorating the dominant, or as a tonic chord with dominant decoration. Regardless of how it's heard, it works as a section of two-part counterpoint because both parts interact in consonances and the right-hand melody uses an established decorative figure, the changing note. If the E is heard as the harmony note, as part of A dominant harmony, the F and D move above and below as part of the changing note figure, and if the D is the harmony note, the E and C sharp move in the same way around the D notes. In the following bar, the D minor chord on the first quarter note beat is the pivot chord for a modulation into F major. As with the modulation into D minor in bar 6, Bach introduces the leading note of F major, E, here as part of a leaping motif on quarter note beat 4. Also, as in bar 6, the upper notes of this motif are again harmony notes, the root and seventh of dominant harmony, and the D is an incomplete upper neighbour note. Not only is the leading note in bar 11 introduced in the same metric position as in the earlier D minor modulation, but Bach also uses the same rhythmic and melodic shape taken from beats 2 and 3 of the theme. On quarter note beats 2 and 3 of the left hand also, Bach uses the same rhythmic and melodic shapes taken from beats 1 and 2 of the theme as a counterpoint to the right hand's figures. As you can see, the two parts interact in first and second species counterpoint. It should be noted, although this type of compatibility within a theme is not always present, it should be utilised if possible. In bar 12, with some slight adjustment, Bach uses the right hand's melodic outline from bar 11 in the left hand. Notice that here, this figure begins above the final note of beat 1's descent, whereas in bar 11 it begins beneath the final note. Remember, rhythm is the most important aspect of imitation. Any slight adjustment to the melodic line, therefore, is typically of no concern. The expected F major resolution of the perfect cadence at the beginning of bar 12 is suggested by the F and A notes on the first part of quarter note beat 1. The F and A notes, however, can also be heard as part of the B half diminished 7th chord on the same beat. The B half diminished 7th chord continues a modulation towards the key of C minor, which was begun by the pivot chord F major at the beginning of bar 12. Because in the left hand of bar 12, Bach is using the same theme fragment from the right hand of bar 11, the leading note of C minor, B natural, is introduced once again on quarter note beat 4 as part of a leaping motif. This time, however, the upper and lower notes of the leap outline a diminished 7th interval, the root and 7th of the B diminished 7th chord. Through bar 12, the parts again interact using first, second and third species counterpoint. The diminished 7th chord resolves to first inversion C minor harmony at the beginning of bar 13. In the right hand of bar 13, the theme begins in C minor. Bach incorporates a 7/6 suspension into this thematic entry, with the initial 16th note sounding the suspension and the resolution occurring on the first 16th note of quarter note beat 2. A full tetrachord is used in the left hand against the C minor theme, and the two parts interact with the same rhythms and intervals, now inverted, as we used with the second G minor theme beginning in bar 3. Beginning in the left hand in bar 15 is another C minor theme. This left hand entry, however, is incomplete and finishes on the first quarter note beat of bar 16. A possible reason why Bach curtails this entry is that he begins a move back towards G minor in bar 16, rather than further establishing the key of C minor by proceeding on to the cadential 6/4 harmony contained on quarter note beats 7 and 8 of the theme. The move back to G minor is begun on quarter note beat 4 of bar 16 and utilises a cycle of fifths progression beginning here on the mediant of C minor and ending in bar 17 on the dominant of C minor, which is also the tonic of G minor. Through the cycle of fifths progression, Bach uses a fragment of the theme in the left hand, against which he uses the same tied note figure from the right hand of bar 12. The tied note figure in the right hand of bars 16 and 17 is used in the same metric position, quarter note beats 2, 3, and 4, as the thematic fragment used in bar 12. The same thematic fragment is again used here across these beats. It is this second fragment which leads to the final G minor theme entry beginning on quarter note beat 3 of the right hand in bar 18. Bach accompanies this entry with the same accompaniment he used against the D minor entry beginning in bar 7. As with the D minor entry, the tetrachord of this entry lacks the initial tonic note and therefore only outlines a major third. At the completion of the G minor theme in bar 20, Bach uses free counterpoint to lead towards the final cadence in bar 23. Notice, once again, all melodic and rhythmic figures in this free counterpoint passage have been used before and utilise first, second and third species counterpoint. As always, in these bars and throughout the complete work, any instances where Bach's counterpoint appears to ignore the rules of species counterpoint can typically be explained in relation to the notes of the underlying harmonic progression. Here, for example, on the second and third 16th notes of this beat, the two parts interact in consecutive dissonances, an augmented second and a perfect fourth. In terms of first species counterpoint, these combinations clearly contradict Fuchs's rules regarding use of consonants in first species. As we have seen before, however, when viewed from a harmonic perspective, the intervals can be explained in terms of the underlying F-sharp diminished 7th chord, which is used on quarter note beat 3 to move from the dominant 7th harmony in the first half of the bar to the G minor chord on the final quarter note beat. The A, C, F sharp and E flat are therefore all harmony notes, and the D and G are passing notes. Another example of this type of melodic interaction occurs here, where the initial C sharp of this bar interacts with the lower part, again with a dissonant augmented second. The C sharp note is also approached by a leap from the preceding G note with another dissonant interval, a diminished fifth. In terms of species counterpoint, two rules are here disregarded, as Bach uses a melodic diminished interval and a harmonic augmented interval. When viewed from a harmonic perspective, however, once again these intervals can be explained by the underlying secondary C sharp diminished 7th chord on the first quarter note beat of this bar. The C sharp, G and B flat therefore are harmony notes, while the A's are passing notes. Here, Bach again uses voice exchange. In the upper part, G moves to B flat, and in the lower part, B flat moves to G. It should be noted, in Bach's day, the use of augmented and diminished melodic and harmonic intervals was controlled and typically only occurred, as in these examples, when harmonic factors allowed. As we have seen, having a strong grasp of the rules of both species counterpoint and voice leading principles allows for greater options when writing counterpoint in 2, 3, or multiple parts. I hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. See you next time.